Immigration is a big topic in this US election. That's number one topic on voters' mind. And joining me are three women of South Asian slash Indian origin who obviously want to talk about why they think Kamala Harris campaign or Kamala Harris's presidency would be better for Indians who live in America. Now, remember, there are three types of Indians who live in America. One who are citizens, second, the ones on green card, and third, and the most important one when it comes to immigration law, are the long-time visa holders. Now, when we interviewed Congressman Tulsi Gabbard, she had a lot of things to say, and she said that, President Donald Trump, if he gets elected to the White House, would fix a lot of things for Indian immigrants. And I think she was probably alluding to the fact that the long-term visa holders, and she also talked about the green cards and aging out kids and all that. So now with us, our advocate and I guess also lawyers, Rolly Karain, Datta and Anurima, thank you so much for joining us. First things first, I'll come to you first, Nina. Why do you think Kamala Harris presidency would be good for immigrants in America, and especially when it comes to Indians who are here on long-term visas?
I think, first of all, she understands the law. And something that a lot of even people who are here on visas don't understand is that the president, the vice president does not dictate immigration law. That is under the purview of Congress. Congress has done nothing for 30 years. So the reason why there are enormous backlogs, why we've got these great PhDs and master's degree holders who have kids that are aging out is because Congress has not addressed visa backlogs. That is the first and foremost reason why I think the VP would be an excellent candidate and why she would be great for immigration. She understands that we have to approach this holistically. We have to understand there was a bill introduced in 2020, HR 1044, that would have increased country caps. As a result, it would have backlogged everybody else as well. It would have resulted in backlogs for everyone else. She understands that you need an increase in green cards across the board. As a president, she cannot introduce that, but it's something that working with people across the aisle, working with different members of Congress, that's how we get that done.
Just so because the technicality of it, right? As the president, what she cannot do. And I come to you, Rolly, on that aspect. But there are executive actions that can be taken, right? I mean, she can come in and issue executive orders that could help some immigrant groups. And we've seen that Joe Biden issuing a lot of these executive orders that has helped certain groups, especially when it comes to asylum and refugee and all that. What do you think Kamala Harris can do on day one if she's elected to help Indian immigrants?
I think first and foremost, she will be putting advisors in the right places. I think who she places in charge of these agencies is actually going to be important because she will be dictating the policy CIS where all of these adjudications are taking place. That will set the tone for how fast these cases are going to be processed. She also has the ability to the interpretations of the definitions that are listed in our statutes. That's all within her authority. And she has the right mindset that immigrants are welcome in this country. And immigrants are, that's the entire reason that immigrants want to come here to the US. She has that mindset already that she wants to invite immigrants. And so that's what I feel like very, very vocal to the agencies, and that's how a lot of her work will get done. I think she will be working with like a bipartisan Congress to pass legislation to address the green card backlog. I think she will be working to make sure that those documented dreamers, those kids that are aging out after turning 21, that they have a pathway to citizenship. These are things that are very much on her agenda. And I think that that's something that we need to remind our diaspora community that these are the issues that we care about. These are the issues that Kamala Harris cares about. We have to go back to Trump's record in 2016 to actually recall exactly what he did for the Indian American community. And I think you're going to come to that in this interview as well.
So my question to you is specifically, you talked about aging out kids, right? That's something she could probably help with the executive order. A follow-up to that would be, why hasn't President Biden done that? I mean, if he had that authority up until now, or probably hasn't until January, why hasn't he done that?
We have to get away from using executive action as the rule of law. Like, I think that he understands that it's in the purview of Congress. So using executive action for these like tiny stopgap measures, which look very big, and the perception is, oh, these people who came across undocumented, they're getting all these benefits. They're not really. It's helping a valve that has been building and building. And I don't, at least tell me if I'm wrong, but like I don't think that the president can introduce any executive actions that would really meaningfully help the aging out dreamers or help the Indian community. We really need this to get Congress to like pass increasing green cards, to expand the Child Status Protection Act. It has actually grown. So there are subtle, small things that have grown under the Biden administration that people don't appreciate. The CSPA, the Child Status Protection Act, does actually protect more kids. They have, it means now, while a green card is pending, the I-140, the kid's age kind of expands. Sorry, I'm not explaining that well, but it means that it sort of freezes the child's age in time so that they're not left out from the family application. So there are policies like that. They're not very sexy. They're not very interesting to people, but they make huge differences. And it's those policies that don't get a lot of light shone on them that have been helpful and that the administration has been instrumental in.
Okay, let me come to the
Can I jump in here for 1 second?
Sure.
I really want to turn to Nina and Rolly as the experts on immigration and the process, but there's a couple of things that I think are just important for people to be reminded of, which is that the vice president has spent a lot of time really engaged on immigration, right? And on what it is that we need to do to fix the problems that are being laid out, right? And she's done that certainly as someone who was a senator from a border state. And one of the things that I think has been a misunderstanding is that Indians are among, the largest populations coming into this country, one of the largest migrant populations. And so this is, when we talk about what's happening with migrants, that is very much a population that includes Indians. And so when I think about what the vice president has done, even during this administration, your question was, why isn't Biden fix this? So there's the easy answer the easier answer, which is that the president can't fix it and certainly can't fix it alone, which is what Nina spoke to. There's the other answer, which is that they've been pushing Congress, right? There's been a lot of work done to bring up bipartisan immigration legislation. And what we've seen, in part at the direction of President Trump, is efforts to make sure that does not go through. And those efforts really stop some of the common sense solutions to how do we address the backlogs, how do we address the ways in which this system is not working for the Indian and South Asian communities, but it's also not working for communities across the board. And so what I think is really a problem is when we are addressing people's lives, their ability to be with their families in a way that is prioritizing politics over common sense solutions. And that's what we've seen from President Trump when he was in the presidency, but also in the ways in which we have not seen the kind of engagement that we've seen from the Biden administration on how do we try and fix some of this. And so the rhetoric we're getting now is not how do we fix a problem, how do we destroy or erase a problem, which is the rhetoric of we're going to just have mass deportations of millions of people. How that works is a response to some of the things that we're talking about, which are not the fringes, right? This is everyday hardworking immigrants like Kamala Harris's family, the way in which she came in. These are hardworking people who are trying to figure out, how do we stay here? How do we thrive? How do we contribute? How do we pay taxes? How do we do all of those things? And those are the problems that we really need to focus on, and not scapegoating migrants, which include, again, many, many Indians.
So would you be worried if President Trump gets elected for immigrants living in America?
I'm gravely worried if Trump gets elected president again, and I'm not basing that worry off of anything else other than what he has told us and shown us and what he has done. What he has told us is that the ways in which he's going to address immigration is basically to do mass deportations. He has spoken often, and we're seeing, one of the things I was looking at today is the rise in hate towards South Asians, towards Indians in this country, in the past year. And I'm very concerned about the fact that so many, including my parents who have been here for 50 years, and my aunties and my uncles are feeling unsafe and unsupported in a way that they haven't felt in a very long time in this country because of the ways in which divides and hate are being fomented. And I think it's really important. So there's the part about like what's going to happen for immigration, which is I think we're going to continue to see what we saw from President Trump in his administration, which is efforts to make this a political issue, make all of the blame go to people who are different or other. And one of the groups in the communities that he is making different or other are certainly South Asians, Indians, anyone who is not, fully on board with what it is that he thinks is out here. We're seeing divide and conquer tactics by communities in a way that I have not seen them in all of my years in America. And I'm gravely worried about what that leads to
Okay.
and whether or not people feel like they're safe, but also what does that mean in terms of the kind of America that we're trying to build, the kind of America that is going to really support what we're about, which is a community that's really about family. It's about hard work. It's about really trying to engage in America with integrity and with a sense that this is our community. And that's what I've seen from the vice president, and certainly imagine that administration will try to continue to do. But it is not what we're seeing from Trump, and the language around mass deportations, the language around skateboarding anyone who doesn't look like you. If we think for 1 second that people are able to tell the difference between us and so many other people who may not look like them, may not be part of the communities, we need to think again. That's not the history of what's happened in America.
Okay.
And as we get to the 60th anniversary of the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965, and we should be celebrating the ways in which we have brought value and energy and innovation to this country. We have so much pride in that, and that is a pride that should be celebrated and not demonized.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna actually go to Roli now and ask her. And Anirba talked about what Trump has said on the campaign trail. Mass deportation and as such. But he's also said that he will staple green cards to people who get degrees, higher degrees. And I know you're laughing at this, but he actually said that on the campaign trail. I mean, so what
Right.
are you to make
So
of that?
he's trying to give green cards out like they're candy to these Indian American students. If he wanted to do that, he would have done that in 2016, wouldn't he? In fact, what he did for international students was quite the opposite. He actually prevented F1 students from actually entering the country by denying their visas in high record at the consulates. And so we're seeing that he doesn't have a policy of welcoming international students. We also saw that he was not a friend when he tried to cut it was originally 60 days students had to leave the country. His entire administration worked on getting them out of the country in 30 days. His administration also tried to shorten the duration of status of F1 students from the duration of status to 2 years, 4 years. So this is not a type of mindset that he's going to be giving green cards. If he wanted to do that, he would have done it in 2016. The clear answer is actually Harris. I mean, that's the bottom line for Indian Americans. I'm speaking for myself. I'm part of the diaspora. I'm speaking for my parents. I'm speaking for my aunties and uncles that are here at the kiddie parties or at the Shara festivals. These aunties and uncles have to go and vote. They need to vote for Harris because Harris actually has the immigrant experience in mind. She understands that immigration is good for our country to retain that top talent. Let's look back at Trump's playbook in 2016. What did he actually do? He made it so for employers, big employers like Amazon, like Google, to retain that top talent, right? Let's go back to he changed the actual minimum wage that the Department of Labor had to, it's something a prevailing wage termination. He increased that, right? So now employers are scrambling to have to pay their employment-based immigrant workers a higher wage, effectively pricing them out, relocating to Canada, relocating to Europe, and taking their jobs with them, right? So this is the mindset that he had in 2016. In 2018, he is creating H4 and L2 He wanted spouses to get, he did not want those spouses to get employment work authorization. He couldn't get it go through Congress. So what did he do? He increased unnecessary cumbersome procedures to effectively make sure that they don't have the ability to work. These are our aunts, these are our sister-in-laws that don't have jobs at the end of the day overnight because of his worldview, his insular worldview, that immigrants are not welcome or not contributing to the economy. So I don't think anybody in our Indian America community for a minute should think that Trump is good for immigration, is good for us. We have to remind ourselves he has not been good for us in 2016. I'm speaking as also an immigration attorney. He made our lives so miserable. We got an increase of requests for evidences. From 3%, it skyrocketed to 12% overnight. How much added work did attorneys have to do overnight to make sure that immigrant worker has the ability to country? Overnight, so many H-1B visa holders had to turn around and go back to their home country if they didn't get their applications approved. Trump is not, these are measures that he had in 2016. You're making sure that he has a turbocharged version of his first term in this next administration if he comes to power. So I'm requesting that Harris is our only option. At this point, Harris is the only option for our diaspora community.
Okay, and for my last question, I'll go to Nina again. Nina, I mean, you also are an attorney. What can a diaspora do? Essentially, obviously, we're talking about voting for Kamala Harris. I mean, what would you tell, especially the long-term visa holders? I mean, what options do they have if Trump to come back to the office?
First of all, visa holders, green card holders cannot vote, so they should speak to their relatives, their friends, their non-Indian friends, and say, this is going to affect me. You like having me as your neighbor? Trust me, I'm not going to be around if you don't vote for the Harris administration. But the things as my two colleagues have said, it will be, we are terrified if he gets in. There are going to be immense changes. You don't think that he's going to put Stephen Miller in charge, the architect of, there's going to be a removal of brother and sister petitions. He will get rid of AC 21, that makes it possible for long-term visa holders who are waiting in that green card line to keep working. All of these things, subtle and small, that make no difference to anyone else, we know, we experienced it, that this whittling away of rights and responsibilities and the types of freedoms that people came to this country to experience and to expand.
Okay, that was a very interesting conversation. I wish we had more time to continue. We'll probably come back to you before election again. But I mean, as women, as lawyers, as community leaders, I think you basically are saying that Trump 2.0 is bad for Indian Americans. We'll close the discussion at this point in time. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll look forward to speaking with you more as we cover the US elections 2024.